Now let's welcome to the show a couple of homies. Selling Superman. Jeff, you were in the documentary. We chatted about it last week, but we have some friends who have not only been part of this process, they were the first to sell some of the books. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the powerful Rage Theo and Phil, the one true Nerd King, to the show. How you feeling? My brothers!
How are you, sir? How are you? Thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
It's an honor, man. Really excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm so excited to dive into this. What was it like seeing this collection in person?
So the Fantast collection is a collection that really started back in the 1930s and can span all the way up to as recently as 2003. This was collected by a father of two young boys that really honestly had a lot of things going on in his life that he didn't want to admit. And one of those things was a very high addiction to collecting in general, right? He collected many different things, but comics, man, he was all over it. And we're talking millions of collectibles in general. And these comics span so many different years. And when he passed away, this was inherited then to his son, Darren. This was a big moment in his life because Darren and his father had a very tumultuous relationship, and these comics drove a huge wedge into his family. The family was literally torn apart by this man's collecting and this collection. So inheriting it was a monumental moment of what do we do? You know, how do I feel about this collection? What can I do in the community with these books for other people? There was a lot of choices that had to come out from this. Darren really started to talk about it with a good friend of his that is in filmmaking, Adam. And they decided to make a documentary because a lot of things about comics we don't talk about aren't just the stories in the pages in the book. It's also the stories of the people that are affected by those characters and by those stories and by these things. And that's where the documentary Selling Superman really comes from. And this collection really came to came into our focus at Comics and Chaos. So Theo and I reached out, we started a conversation, and boy, oh boy, it's been nothing but an amazing ride.
We were excited to find out that you were heading down there to be some of the first members to help sell and move these books. And we had just got done talking about the collection and the Finding Superman documentary over the last podcast. And that weekend, when we debuted the podcast, we're watching you guys on Instagram handling the books, selling the books for the first time. What was it like upon entry, seeing this massive collection, seeing the vault, seeing the goods?
This was a massive collection. This is the first time I've ever been flown out somewhere to do a sale, let alone the first time I've ever taken on someone's collection to consign. So it was a learning process for me. And I could tell you guys right off the rip, this collection not only is massive, not only spans from the golden age to the modern age, but it is completely unorganized. I mean, you'd literally get a short box out from a vault or from the shipping container, and you'd be going through, there'd be Golden Age, there'd be DC, there'd be Marvel, there'd be some Wildcats, and you're just like, okay, where do we start? How do we get this going right now? So the process of organizing for this sale, I don't want to say it was a headache, but it was definitely a challenge. It was definitely a challenge. I didn't know what we were walking into. I had an idea, but getting ready for the actual sale, I think, was the hardest part for myself and for Phil.
Yeah, I can't imagine like having to go through that stuff for the first time to pick out books to put for sale in such an unorganized environment. Because I mean, I went and saw the collection. I looked through every single box. I know exactly what you're talking about. And when you say containers, it's because they were stored in 3 shipping containers. So Selling Superman is the documentary. Fantast is the name of the collection. And Darren is one of the sons who's been taking the responsibility to really manage I guess, the books going out and the organization of it. But to have to step in there as an outsider to sell these books and go through that, I mean, that's a huge undertaking. And you guys are just getting started, right? Because there's going to be more to come.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
this was our first of many sales. The one thing I do respect about Darren, instead of just selling his dad's collection and kind of taking the money and walking away from the hobby, he's actually reinvesting it back into the hobby. He's picking up golden age grails, high grade books that he's always wanted as a kid. So I respect that. I respect that a lot.
And the best thing about this hobby is it's a hobby that can pay for itself, because that was the main thing about this collection, is the fact that it never got to be enjoyed, man. His dad would go just buy the books and they just go in a box. His dad didn't open them, didn't go, there wasn't like his own reader copies. His dad just saw books, bought books, put books in box. And then when he passed away roughly 2 years ago, boxes opened. That was it. That's the story of every single one of those comics in that box. Dad saw, dad bought, dad boxed, dad passed away, and nobody saw until that time.
And the multiples of keys and just iconic books that they have in this collection, I've never seen anything like it. In the middle of a show, I remember a few customers, they were like, "Oh, do you have any more Ghost Rider ones?" Because we had sold 2 copies. And Darren in the background was like, "1 second, 1 second." He comes back, he's like, boom, short box. Whole thing's full of Ghost Rider ones. He's like, here, take these 10. We could sell those. I got another 10 at CGC. It's okay. It's okay.
There was 10 giant size X-Men in there, and 8 of them came back as a 9.8 from CGC. He goes, the dog in the entire set was an 8.5.
I feel like you guys kind of breezed past this a few minutes ago, but you mentioned these were in shipping containers and like a vault.
Oh, exactly what you would imagine. Just gigantic shipping containers, climate controlled too, with indoor lighting, built-in customizable shelves. You go in there, there's literally 2 walls, and they're just stacked with short boxes all the way down.
Darren's not somebody that just inherited a bunch of comics. Darren has his own careers that he built for himself before this collection became his. Darren's got a number of different financial advisory businesses. He's got a technology business. Darren knows what to do and how to take care of things. So when this collection came to him, he put it in the exact right places. And these are 3 large shipping containers that you see on freaking freighters going across the ocean, bringing things back and forth. They aren't like little just piddly dink kinds of like, oh, I see the little pods dropped on somebody's driveway for moving. No. These are shipping containers. And the safe, I mean, I think Theo and I could have both sat in that safe with room. It wasn't just like, oh, and if you know me, I'm a big dude, right? So, I mean, it's a safe. And every single one of those shipping containers was individually safe locked as well with special coded. Dude, it was like something on a Mission Impossible holding comic books.
Definitely some good security in there. Yeah.
Let's get specific. I want to know books that you got to see, got to hold. What were the most exciting ones? You mentioned giant size. I imagine that's one of the least exciting things you saw.
Start off, I got to hold a 7.0 Superman #1. I think that's like about a $2.5 million book, give or take a few $100,000, but that's the first time I've ever held one, let alone a 7.0. I think I held, what was it, 2 or 3 AF-15s, all 5.0 or higher. I think at one point he let me take a look at 4 Fantastic Four #1s, the lowest grade being a 4.0, all the way up to I think like a 6 and a 7.
I'm going back through my phone right now because I want to be specific. I was taking selfies with each of these books. I'm not going to lie. It was one of those kinds of moments where you see like, a star on the streets. You're like, oh, can I get in a picture? It's one of those kinds of moments where I've got Superman 1. I've got the Amazing Spider-Mans Theo's talking about as well. I'm a Star Wars nerd, so I've got a 9.8, newsstand Star Wars right next to the Clone Wars 1. So those are 2 big grails for me, both just sitting there again in a 9.8. It's freaking just ridiculous, stupid, amazing fantasies. And as you kind of look through, you can just see the number of slabs that are in this collection, right? I mean, and those are baseball cards, and those aren't just like any baseball cards. Those are Babe Ruths. Those are Mickey Mantles. Those are copious amounts of collectibles, guys, that are ridiculous to have one in any person's collection. And you're talking about like a safe load.
Speaking of grading, is it correct that there's upwards of 5,000 of these books on their way to Sarasota as we speak?
There are at least 5,000 on their way down right now, and there are at least 5,000 coming back these next week or two from there. There's that much in cycle.
And I think it was like what, $140,000 CGC bill.
That has to be on the low end. That has to be for that many books.
It's ridiculous. Just whole rows and shelves of a shipping container, just from one side to the other. Slab Comics.
Amazing. I got to hear what the community thinks in the comment section below about this collection. You can follow Rage over on Instagram, Rage Theo. You can follow Phil at One True Nerd King and their YouTube channel, Comics and Chaos. I'm going to ask one last question, guys, and we'll make it real quick for you. If you had that Superman graded comic, would you sell it?
It's a hard question, Tom.
Yeah, no, you got to just answer it.
That's a hard question.
If I had the Superman 1 in a 7.0, with my current situation, having 3 younger kids, I think I would sell it. It would probably make me cry to do so, but I know the good it would do for myself and my family and my collecting career. So as much as I wouldn't want to, yes, I would sell it.
No, I'd keep it. That's just like, it's the second highest on census, man. It would be cool enough to be handed down to my daughter. It would go from, 3 to 6 or 7, and then she can make that decision. I would feel comfortable with that. But for me, I'd keep it.
All right, Phil, real quick. It's third highest graded now.
Oh,
does that
what
change?
A jerk.
Would you sell it now? Third highest?
Third. Still, man, you're talking about a guy that's never gotten a medal for anything in his life. I'd take a 3rd place. I'm okay with that. I mean,
it's a big book, like you said, you got to sell something to up the security for that type of a book to be in your house, man. Like,
stop being logical. You're really upsetting me right now. I need to live not in reality at the moment and just 100% in my imagination and in my pretend little freaking world. I keep the book.
Okay, touche.
Gentlemen, thank you for being on the show today. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, man.